Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yemini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in loving memory of Edward ben Efraim, Shlomo ben Edward, and Yirachmiel Daniel ben Gedalia. May their souls be uplifted and may their memories be a blessing. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of the Refuah Shlema of Shaul ben Edward, of Benyamin ben Tova, Rafael ben Mazal, as well as Orna ben Lili. May they have a complete and speedy recovery. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Yisro, built to last. Our Parsha contains the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, marking one of the most pivotal moments in Jewish history and making this Torah portion one of the most important of the Torah. For the first and only time, God spoke directly to the entire Jewish nation, and He affirmed our identity as His people, revealing the foundations of His bris, of His covenant with the Jewish nation. Just 6 weeks after leaving Egypt, the Jewish people arrived at the foot of Har Sinai, of Mount Sinai, in the Sinai desert. Moshe Rabbeinu instructed them to prepare themselves for 3 days, setting aside time for purification and reflection. They were warned not to approach or touch the mountain, which has been sanctified by God's presence. Only Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen were permitted to ascend, while the rest of the nation stood below in anticipation. On the 3rd day, the revelation began. A powerful shofar blast continued to grow stronger and stronger and more intense, as smoke, thunder, and lightning enveloped the mountain as God's essence descended upon Har Sinai. The Jewish people gathered below, filled with awe and fear, were unable to endure the intensity of hearing God directly, and the people turned to Moshe Rabbeinu and asked him to serve as an intermediary between them and God. The revelation was too overwhelming, beyond the limits of the human experience. Moshe Rabbeinu reassured the Jewish nation, saying, "Do not fear God, for He has come to test you, so that His awe may be upon you and you will not sin." And this moment was not only about receiving the mitzvahs, for receiving the commandments, but establishing an unbreakable bond between God and His people, one that would define us and them forever. God then proclaimed the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, as He declared that I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. Anochi Hashem lekecha asher hotzesi escha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I took you out of Egypt, affirming His direct role in the redemption. He commanded the nation to worship no other gods, to honor His name, to sanctify the Shabbos, and He established the foundations of human responsibility by commanding honor towards our parents, forbidding murder, adultery, theft, and demanding truth, integrity, and restraint of desire. The Aseres HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, are not merely a list of laws. They form the moral and spiritual foundation of Jewish life, shaping our relationship with God and with each other. And from that moment, Har Sinai, until today, they have continued to bind us to our Creator in an eternal bris, in an eternal covenant that defines who we are every single day. However, a question comes to mind. Following the Aseres HaDibros, God turns to Moshe Rabbeinu and addresses the Jewish people again. They just witnessed the divine revelation firsthand. They heard God's voice at Har Sinai, leaving no doubt to His existence or authority, and yet the very next instruction warns them not to make gods of gold or silver, and commands them that they build a mizbeach, an altar simply made of earth. The pasuk writes, "Lo yisasun iti elokei kesef elokei zahav lo yisasu lachem." With me you shall not make gods of silver, nor shall you make yourself gods of gold. And followed by the next pasuk, "Mizbach adama tasali v'zavachta alav." Make for me an altar of earth and sacrifice on it. Why is this the first message given after the revelation itself? What is the deeper purpose of these laws placed immediately following the 10 Commandments at the height of such spiritual clarity? The Ibn Ezra, Rav Avram ben Meir Ibn Ezra, gives us a simple explanation. He writes that the command, that the mitzvah to build a mizbeach immediately following the Aseres HaDibros, was not symbolic or philosophical, but practical. These instructions were given at the exact moment that the Jewish people formally entered into the bris, into the covenant with God. And the Mizbeach described here was not a theoretical future structure or the Mizbeach of the Mishkan, but an actual Mizbeach that Moshe built beneath Har Sinai. The Torah records these laws at this point because they describe what the nation was about to do next. Not because they were about to introduce a new model of worship. The Ibn Ezra emphasizes that a Mizbeach of earth means precisely that. A Mizbeach made just of earth, constructed simply, without embellishment for this covenantal moment. And its simplicity ensured that the focus remained on obedience and commitment to Hashem rather than the permanence or the artistry of it. This Mizbech existed to serve a moment of the acceptance of the bris and not to define the future architecture of the Beis HaMikdash or the Mishkan. However, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem and Lushnerson, gives us a deeper and more profound explanation. In a Sicha in Chelik Lamed Vav, the Rebbe explains that immediately following Matan Torah, God is teaching the Jewish people that there's no need for intermediaries. When God reveals himself directly, nothing made of gold, nothing made of silver can bring a person closer. No structure, no image, no symbol can enhance that connection. God is as present in the simplest space as he is in the most exalted sanctuary. And this is why the Torah commands that the first Mizbeach be made of earth. Not because earth is holy, but because sincerity is. A Mizbeach of earth contains no grandeur and invites no distraction. It teaches us that closeness to God is not achieved through beauty, but through humility and directness. When the desire to connect is real, nothing more is required. The Rebbe explains that Matan Torah revealed a relationship without distance. God spoke from the heavens, yet addressed every Jewish person directly. And in that moment, the Jewish people learned that God does not reside in the elevated space or in the refined objects. He dwells wherever a person approaches him with truth. The absence of gold is not a limitation, it is the point. And the Rebbe writes that the message is clear. After revelation, the path forward is not complexity, but honesty. The deepest connection to God is built not through intermediaries, but through a sincere heart that is seeking to be present, to be open, and to be aligned with its Creator. This profound lesson from the Lubavitcher Rebbe is ever more relevant in a world filled with distraction. Endless noise compete for our attention and quietly pulls a person away from inner clarity. Our essence remains capable of direct connection to God, yet our focus is often drawn outward, away from the stillness required to sense his presence. The Torah does not demand total withdrawal, but intentional simplicity. Moments like prayer, days like Shabbos create space where distractions are set aside and sincerity can emerge. And in those days, and in those times, a connection returns to its purest form. A creation before its creator, a servant before its king, a child before a loving Father in heaven. The Mizbeach of earth, says the Rebbe, teaches us that when the noise falls away, closeness needs no adornment, only presence. In our daily life, it is imperative to realize that when we feel overwhelmed, the instinctive response is often to add more information, more noise, more effort, more distraction. Yet the most effective response is usually the opposite. Simplifying creates clarity. Turning down the noise allows perspective to return. And when attention is no longer scattered, judgment sharpens and direction becomes visible again. Going inward is not a withdrawal, but a recalibration. By removing what's unnecessary, we create space to see challenges as they are rather than as they feel. And from that clarity comes steadier decisions, comes stronger outcome. And for those who simplify under pressure, regain control, they move forward with intention and ultimately achieve far beyond what they once thought possible. There's a profound quote that I once read. What endures is rarely loud, and what is loud rarely endures. Have a great weekend and good Shabbos. Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.